a newly married Indian girl from Indonesia. A winter morning in Leeds. They've run out of milk. He needs his morning cuppa. In a hurry, she pulls on her husband's winter coat over her pajamas to run to her local Tesco. As she walks out, her hands wander into the pockets and her fingers wrap around something unfamiliar. She pulls her hand out and stares at what she now holds in the palm of her hands. The world around her has already dissolved, and her brain is whirring into motion. In this one innocent moment, and with this one simple act, the very trajectory of her life has just drastically changed. Welcome to No Ordinary Life. I am Ruchita Misra, your forever obsessed with stories host. No wonder then, on this podcast, we talk about real people and their real stories. My guest today is Kusum. She is one of the first friends I made when I came to London 16 years ago. What did Kusum find and what happened after? Kusum's story is one of survival. Today, she stands at the top of her game, a leader in her field. But most importantly, she is an ordinary woman, like you and me, but a woman who has built her life from absolutely nothing. It is no ordinary story. This is no ordinary life. Let's dive in. Kusum, let us go back to the start. Which part of the world are you taking us to, and how old are you now?
That's about 20 years ago, so I was 19 or so. We'll take you back to Indonesia. That's where I was born. That's where I'm from. I'm Indian. During the partition, my grandparents migrated to Indonesia. So my dad was born there. And that's how we ended up there.
And you lived all your life in Indonesia?
Yeah, I lived all my life there. I grew up there, went to school there. All my friends are there. My family are all there. So yeah, it's a bit different. But I guess that's how it transpired.
So you're 19 and you meet somebody. Tell us the start of it all. Who did you meet? How did you meet him? And how was it?
I was 19. This whole kind of online chatting was very new back then. I met a guy actually online, and he was from Leeds, United Kingdom. I met him online. We chatted kind of for 6 to 8 months. I told my parents that I really like this guy.
And did you meet him during this period?
No, I met him after 6 months of talking to him or so. I told my dad. I was very close to my dad. Unfortunately, he passed away recently, but I was really close to him. So I was like, "Oh, Dad, I've met this guy online, and I really like him." It looked like a different world altogether, to be honest. Yeah. And it was like, okay, this is crazy. But I dragged my dad from Indonesia to the UK to say, I want to meet this guy. So me and my dad took a trip down.
So by this time, you and this person, you've spoken about love, spoken about marriage.
I guess so. I mean, we definitely liked each other a lot. We felt we got along. There was a lot of connection. It was young connection, very fairy tale type, when you're young and you're like maybe a little bit naive as well.
Correct.
But it felt like, okay, there was a lot of connection. This is what I wanted to do. He was much older than me. I mean, not that it makes a difference, but...
How old was he?
He was like 10 years older than me.
Okay. So you're 19, he's close to being 30.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And coming back to that, so we came, we met them, and it was like very much a family gathering at his house, and it all felt like you were somehow in it already, like without
Really?
being in it. So it felt like okay.
There was never a proposal as such, but it was just assumed that you together. I can understand how that happens.
It was assumed.
Actually.
I think. I don't know if it's fair to say this, but back then dating was different. It was like you were seeing somebody, you were in it. It wasn't like, oh, are we thinking about this, or are we got more options or whatever. We didn't have that.
And you've seen on Instagram now how you have those fancy proposals where the whole
we didn't have any of that funkiness. But basically, we met his family. We had a few dinners, chilled. Of course, we got some alone time. We got to know each other a little bit. Went out for a few drinks, went for some food. It was all very nice.
What made you fall in love with him?
That's a very difficult question. I think
because we have to remember the Kusum now and the Kusum 19 at 19. They were
Yeah.
two very different people. So I'm very curious to know what the 19-year-old Kusum fell in love with.
I think there was a sense of security in many ways. There was a sense of like, okay, there was a sense of security, there was a sense of connection, there was a sense of being different from a different world. I feel like because I went to boarding school, so through that process, my life changed a little bit. I became a lot more independent, became a lot more like I wanted to do something for myself, and a lot of those things, were aligned. He was someone that was self-made, came from a good background, from a good family. So it just felt that it was the right thing at that time.
So then you guys got married.
Yeah. So after that visit, we went back, and then we somehow fell into it, and we're like, okay, well, we're going to get married because of the distance, I guess. Distance was hard. So 7 months later, it was all set up to get married. I got married in 2006.
And how old are you when you were getting married?
To be precise, 20.
So you're 20. You've gotten married to a person you met online, but you've met him in person. Your families have met each other.
Yeah.
And how long do you know him for by this time?
Not long, like a year or so.
A year or so. But during this time, you're talking a lot. So you
Yeah,
feel
we're
like
talking
you've
a lot.
known him for a long time.
We're talking a lot. It feels like we've known each other for a long time. There was a lot of love. There was a lot of, wanting to be together. There was a lot of dreams. There was a lot like, oh, well, you'll come over. We'll have a great life. So there was a lot of nice emotion. It was a good bond.
Did you feel like it was destiny at that point in time?
Yeah, I think so.
You felt like that?
Yeah.
I started this podcast with a little story about you, about one morning in Leeds. So you've gotten married and you've moved from Indonesia to Leeds.
Yeah.
And coming to this morning, how many months have you been married for by this time?
It's very hard to recollect exactly, but it would be literally 4 or 5 months. So I got married in May.
And how were these 4 or 5 months? So far, how has your marriage been?
It was a little bit strange. The person I married, I didn't think was the person I actually married. Because I don't think I actually got to spend time in person. I think spending time online and spending time in person can be slightly different. There were a lot of strange moments. There was lots of awkwardness.
There was a lot of
strange moments. Like
yeah.
And it just felt something wasn't right at that point. But I couldn't really put my hand on put my finger on what exactly was wrong. But he's a good guy. There's no issues, but it just felt like something was missing in the puzzle. It didn't feel like it was a person I thought I was going to marry.
So because I've known you for 15 years now, 16 years now, I know you have the brain of Sherlock Holmes. If there's something wrong, Kusum will find it. So I guess even though you were very young and you did not know this person very well, even though you were married to him, that detective brain of yours was actually beginning to work, that there is something.
Yeah. I guess so. I think it's my intuition.
Yes.
It comes to me quite quickly. But yeah, I mean, I think also, I don't know if this is fair to say, but there was also a little bit of escapism in the young, in the young me. Like I think I just wanted to get away, to do something different, to be bold, to be brave, to go with your heart. So yeah.
So okay. So what happened that morning, Kusum? Tell us what you found in the pocket of the coat.
So I found used syringes and empty packets of like citric acid.
And did you know instantly what it was, or you were too naive, and obviously you've not been exposed to substance abuse or anything, so you don't know what it is?
No, I don't know what it is. I didn't even know what a dishwasher looked like until I came to the UK, because we didn't have dishwashers in Indonesia.
So that morning you've gone, okay, so you've seen syringes. So what is your first thought when you see them?
Honestly, I thought he had an illness or something, like he was sick or had a disease, or, was just, I wasn't 100% sure.
And so you find this, and then you go back to your home. And who is in home? Who lives with you in your home now?
So I lived with my in-laws at that time.
Which is very typical for Indian families.
Yeah, it was
actually.
like a typical, we lived in a joint family. His sister was there, his brother was there. We all lived in a house together.
And what did you do when you find this? So you go back and you're making tea, or you are now having a fight with him?
I was trying to have a conversation. I was like, I found this and I don't know what it is. So can you please explain to me what it is? And,
what did he say?
And he was like, oh, this is, that's when he actually came to me and said, I'm actually, I'm actually a user. Actually, I'm so sorry I wasn't honest about
Oh,
this
wow.
to you. He admitted pretty much straight away.
And how did that make you feel?
Um, to be honest, I think I couldn't process it because I didn't really understand
The enormity of
yeah,
what was going to,
Yeah.
what this meant.
yeah.
So I'm thinking about that day, Kusum. You've been happily married for 5 months and you've just found, and your husband has admitted that he is a user. What's going on in your head? Like, are you calling up somebody or are you keeping it inside? Are you processing? What's happening with you that day?
I think a fighter mode kind of came out.
Really?
It was like, okay, let's just talk through what it is, how we can maybe get through it, how we can make you better. Because in all honesty, he was a great guy. And it was just, I always felt like it can be fixed. And I think there's a lot of empathy in thinking like, what if it was me who was addicted to something? It's like, how would I feel if someone just decided, oh, you're addicted to this, I'm not going to make an effort, I'm just going to leave. So there was a side of me that said, okay, we need to at least get to the bottom of what it is and maybe how you can get better. So that was my instant reaction.
So what were you thinking at this point in time? That this is a minor issue, or do you think, or you have no idea how the enormity of this has not dawned upon you yet?
I think I had no idea at
No
that
idea.
point. I mean, I was honestly very blank. It all came through a learning process of understanding what it actually meant. But at that point, I had no idea. I just thought it's a small problem, and it would be fixed.
And then slowly what happened? Because now it's out in the open. So he was probably not hiding stuff as much as he was in the first 4-5 months. So how has life changed after that morning?
So life's changed. I think you're constantly a lot more worried. Constantly more worried, like, is the person okay? Are they using right now? Are they safe? It was a lot of being in the shower for 2 hours.
What is that? Why is he in the shower for
Why
2
is he in the shower for 2 hours?
And if he's late, you're wondering
Yeah,
where
so
he is.
I had to like break the lock of the bathroom basically, just so that I couldn't get access to it. Like if I ever wanted to, like if he overdosed or something like that.
And did his family know about it?
Yeah, I think they knew. In all honesty, I think he used to lapse. So it would be, there would be periods where he would be clean, and then there would be periods where he would lapse. And I'm not sure they knew how much he used, but he didn't cause chaos. So as much as this was, I guess, his own personal use and his own personal time that he did this. He didn't cause anyone chaos.
Did this then, substance abuse, did this slowly begin to overtake your life? Is it permeating into other things, or what happens? What's happening then in the next few months? How is it progressing?
I mean, he fell out with his parents.
Okay.
So that became a bit of an issue. And then we were asked to leave the house. And we went and stayed at his grandma's house. I was practically like working in Primark at that time, to be honest. We were asked to leave.
Were you financially supporting both of you at this stage?
It got to that basically. Like he kind of he had his own house, but it had nothing in it. Like it didn't even have hot water. So we stayed with his grandma for a bit, and then eventually we decided that we were going to do up one of the rooms in the house that he owned and try to live in it. So we got like a carpet, like a microwave, like a kettle, etc. And then just lived out of a room basically. We'd boil hot water and somehow make a shower work. And then all of that got too much. To be honest, I did that for a couple of years, and then we managed to sell that house off, and then we bought another house together. And at least it brought some comfort in the sense of having a home or having a place of your own. But there was still a lot of this lapsing stages and being clean and lapsing and cleaning.
And how is his health otherwise? Is he becoming weaker, or is he okay?
He was pretty okay. Like his health was good, just as any normal person.
And through it all, till now, do your parents know anything about it?
It's a very funny story. I had to tell them eventually because we were traveling back to Indonesia on holiday, and he had his, his replacement meds in his suitcase, but his suitcase got lost, so it didn't actually
wow.
arrive in Indonesia. So he was, it happens like you just need that because you've traveled for such a long time and you need something to keep you going. He was having all the after effects of what
Withdrawal symptoms.
withdrawal symptoms. He was having withdrawal symptoms, and
Oh, so your mom and dad have no idea that
No.
this is an issue, and they're seeing their son-in-law suffering for
Yeah.
no reason. So then you had to basically come
basically I had to
clean.
tell them that
This is-
yeah.
And so I know you were very close to your father. And he was very close to you. What is the conversation that you're now having with your dad?
Basically, yeah, I had to be honest with my parents and just say, look, it's he's not got a flu or something. He's withdrawing from substance abuse, and
That must have been a hard conversation, Kusum.
yeah, it was a very heartbreaking conversation. I think they couldn't really. I don't think they could register at that time. The whole goal was how can we make him better? How can we get him to a place where he's fine? And then we'll think about all the nuances of,
What this means.
of what it means. So I told my dad, we went to a family doctor.
Oh, wow.
We got like a replacement med just to help him get through it. And then a couple of days later, his bag arrived.
And you got the
They found
medicines.
it. And then yeah. I mean, there was, I guess there was no awkwardness. They never brought it up with him, but somehow they knew deep down that something wasn't very right.
And I'm just thinking of this. So after this trip, you're going back to London, Leeds. What do you think is going on in your parents' mind at that point in time? So they're sending you back with somebody who's...
I feel like it really broke my dad's heart in a way. I think firstly there was distance, so we were quite far away. So it wasn't like, oh, I can come and check in on you tomorrow or something. And then and I didn't really have any friends or family or anyone in Leeds really. So it was tough.
And I can imagine it must have been tough for him to send you back.
Yeah, it was very tough for him. I think he believed in the love. I mean, he did love me. As in, the guy did love me. And it, he was a good husband. He was a good guy. He was a good husband. There's just no doubt about that. But it was just this one thing that, it's just constantly there, and it's just constantly, stops you from growing, either as a person or even as a couple.
And then what happened when you came back to the UK?
So when I came back to the UK, time just flew by. He kind of stopped working. I then, got a couple of extra jobs.
So how long have you been married?
2 years.
2 years. And now you're working multiple jobs
Working multiple jobs to pay
support
bills.
both of you.
Yeah, because we ended up having a mortgage because we ended up selling the place that we were that was not done up properly and bought a decent space, and that had bills kind of coming through, and I feel somehow maybe because I was aware of the situation, it almost was like, okay, I'll just do whatever,
But
now.
you are like that, Kusum. You
Yeah.
take on everything on yourself as well.
Yeah.
I'll do this, I'll do that.
A little bit.
And you said that there's relapses. So it's
Yeah.
probably becoming a continuous cycle of
Yeah.
hope and disappointment.
Yeah.
Hope and disappointment. What is that doing to you, and is that taking a toll on you now?
In all honesty, I feel like I was a very emotionally strong person. I'm not saying I'm emotionally weak now, but I had a lot to give and a lot to be able to fight for it. We went to Narcotics Anonymous, which is like a support group. So you actually go there and you go to meetings. I actually learned lots through that process. You meet other people who are in this similar situations, and how do you deal with that? So yeah, I mean, it was a difficult time, but somehow I had the courage. Somehow I had the power to power through.
All of this is going on. Did you believe that you could love him into becoming the person you thought you'd married?
Yeah, 100%. I think the love was 100% there. It was a strong bond, and I felt like there would be a solution to this problem.
And you were working towards
And
that
we're
solution.
working towards it, Yeah.
But that's not what happened. Things began to get worse.
Yeah, I think maybe I also grew a little bit more mature as a person and started to understand how severe this issue is actually.
And how almost helpless he himself was. Because substance abuse is a disease.
Yeah. It's like an addiction.
Yeah.
So, it's
And
not
experts
like an
call it
addiction. was an addiction.
a chronic brain disorder.
Yeah.
So
It's almost like everybody has their own zone when they're addicted to different things. It could be due to trauma. It could be due to just circle of friends, and before you know it, you're in it. It's very easy to get in, but obviously very hard to get out of.
And how did things become worse? What was happening now?
Things got worse in the sense I think I got, life got a lot more difficult. The chemistry started getting lost as a couple. You're
And
constantly.
do you know why I think that was happening? Because you were probably beginning to feel that for him, the substance was more important than the two of you.
Yeah, I didn't see. I thought I could see light at the end of the tunnel, but
Slowly
it wasn't coming. I was like, okay, how long more do I have to do this? What if I have a child? I don't have any support. What if how do I see a future? Okay, he's a good guy and everything else is great, but this one thing is going to really hinder the rest of my life, and I couldn't see how it would leave him.
Whilst you're married to him, if you had to pick one thing to be the hardest thing for you, what would that be?
To be honest, I feel like if I was closer to my family, maybe things would have been slightly different.
Very interesting. So you're saying that if you were closer to your mom and dad and you'd shared more with them,
yeah,
they would have advised you.
Yeah, and also both in a location wise and in an emotional wise, it was very hard to share because they were far away. So, and it's very difficult for any parent to understand what's happening without actually physically being there.
Kusum, I feel that every single day. So both of us live very far from our parents. And I think it's very right that perhaps we would live lives differently if they were closer to us or we were closer to them.
Yeah, I mean, I gave up my life to come and live in the United Kingdom. It wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't an easy decision for my dad. It wasn't an easy decision for me. But I hold accountable for the choices I made, and I have no regrets.
It's interesting you bring that up because you come from a very well-to-do family in Indonesia, and then you were doing 3 jobs to support yourself and your partner. How was that?
Very strange. We come from a place where everything is very simple. You get driven around to school. You get you get whatever you fancy. Life is so easy. It's laid back. It's not cold. And you come here and it's cold. You don't know anyone. You've got to pick up your own shopping, whatever it might be. So. It's very, very difficult, but I had strength. I really had strength to feel like, okay, like we can work this out. Maybe because I didn't want to let my dad down, because somehow I felt that at the back of his mind, he was like, maybe this is not the right thing, but he went with it because I really wanted it. And also the wedding almost got called off. So like during the wedding occasions, there was some, usual like family misunderstanding or whatever happened the night before. And my dad was like, I'm going to call the wedding off. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. So,
I have this feeling that, if you're 19, you have met somebody online, there are issues that your dad can see because of whatever's happening at the wedding. Yeah. I think he could see the red flags, but he loved you so much that he wanted you to have your way.
Yeah. I think, bless him. He's never, he never ever said no to anything,
That has to take a very big love.
Yeah, it does. Like in this whole process, given where I am today, I lost 20 years of my time with him. Because if I was back home, I would have had all the time with him. But, like I said, they're the choices that I made, and I am regretting them.
Loving a substance user is a lot about hoping, but it is also a little bit about knowing when it's time to go or time to leave. And When did you reach that point? What did you do? What happened that made you get to that point?
I think I reached that point when I felt like this is how my life is going to be
Forever.
and this is not what I want.
At this point in time, do you still love him?
Yeah, I think it gets to a point where it becomes a really tough thing that you have to do for yourself. You know, love can only take you so far.
Love is not all. Love is not everything,
You know,
unfortunately.
like love is a very big part of our relationship, but it's not everything.
Mm.
And being not just being able to give love, you also want to be receiving love, right? So
True.
so when you don't receive love, when you feel like, okay, like I'm the one who's pouring into this all the time, but I just feel like the person does love, but they don't show it to you. They're constantly in this limbo of, you know, not feeling well, not feeling well, feeling well. You know, how does that, how do they stand up for you? You know, love also means being able to show up for you.
Yep. Continuously show up for you, actually.
Yeah.
And then you took a decision.
And I took a decision. It was a decision I took without telling anyone. So I didn't should even tell my own parents.
And tell me what you did that day.
So I firstly I found a lawyer. I didn't have enough money to pay for a divorce. You know, I barely earned, I don't know, peanuts, whatever it was, and it was not enough to get a, you know, legal. So there was a thing called legal aid. So you apply for that and then you qualify. So so I qualified. So I did that prep in the background. I found a lawyer, and I was firm on my decision that I'm going to leave. But I also wanted to take my things, not to sound funny, but I wanted to take my laptop, I wanted to take my camera, I wanted to take my certificates, because I think when you get into an argument with somebody and you say, oh, I want to leave, it's almost like, okay, well, take your bags and go. And I didn't want to be in that situation. I wanted to be in a situation where I could just leave on the basis of, okay, you know, now is the time I can take my stuff and just exit. So I found a place. So I used to come from Leeds to London on a train and do interviews during the day to find a job.
But your family in Leeds did not know anything.
No,
about
they didn't know anything. At that time, you could buy tickets cash and things like that. So I'd buy tickets cash, go to the train station, buy a ticket, come from Leeds to London, you know, kind of do interviews. Had 3-4 interviews lined
So
up.
you had a vision for your life,
Yeah.
and you knew that this life is not what you want. So you were you did not just leave, you planned.
Yeah. So
And how old are you at this stage?
24. So I planned everything. I planned a place, I planned a job.
And you got a job in one of these
Yeah,
interviews?
I got a job. I got a job. So yeah, so anyway, I found a job, I found a place, and I found a guy to help me move, just like a man with a van. And literally it cost like £300 or something like that. And he said, I'll take all your stuff. And I didn't have a lot of stuff, but I was just, you know, I'll take all your stuff, I'll drive you to wherever you need to go. It was a Friday, 15th of January 2010. And
Do you know what's interesting? 8th of January 2010, I came to London.
oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I must have, yeah, I moved to London 15th of January
A
2010.
week after I landed,
Yeah, and we met pretty soon.
very soon after that.
Very soon after that.
So what happened then? So you've got your man and van.
I got my man with the van, helped me with everything.
And what's going... So you're seeing... And I'm very conscious that this might come across as scheming and planning, but it was not that. So you are with your husband. He doesn't suspect anything, but you know that you've done whatever you could to be with him, and now you're done.
I think it got to a point where it felt like I felt stuck. You know, I felt trapped. I felt I didn't have support. I felt I didn't have family. You know.
And instead of wallowing in that misery, you decided to take action.
Yeah.
Good. Good on
I
you.
was like, okay, I just can't be in this loop anymore, where I'm constantly waking up and worried about my life and worried about the other person's life and what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. So I just got to a point where I felt like it was time to leave.
And then that Friday morning, 15th of January, you wake up, he wakes up. What happens then?
I wake up, he wakes up.
In my head, I have a Bollywood movie going on in my head.
I wish it was like a Bollywood movie. It's a little bit like that. But so basically, yeah, he said he's going out with his mates for some drinks or something like that. So that's the day I actually planned to leave. And then yeah, he went out. Literally said, "Okay, I'm off." Went out, said, "I'm going now. Bye," and that's it. And then I started,
Packing up everything.
packing up everything. I already started packing up everything, but he didn't know a lot of it anyway. So then I started packing up the bits I wanted. I even took my rice cooker, I think, funny enough, because I was like, I don't have enough money. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my rice cooker because it's not like he makes any rice anyway. So,
Do you still have that rice cooker? No.
So yeah, so I yeah, back to it. I took everything, and then it was raining very heavily on that day.
What time in the day did you leave?
7 p.m. ish.
So he was gone for the night.
He was gone for the he was going to be back late.
Yeah.
So I left Leeds at 7, reached London around 10:30.
And what's happening in this 3.5 hours?
I'm constantly looking at my phone, thinking, when do I need to text? Everyone that I've actually left.
So you actually packed your. So we say, I often threaten my husband that I'm going to pack my bags and leave. You actually did it.
Yeah, this wasn't a threat. And I never actually said it, because I feel like when someone is their brain's in a different zone, like they can't think with logic.
So 7:30 to 10:30.
7:30 to 10:30. I'm constantly checking my phone. I had this very old Samsung phone. It was I can't remember the model, but it was very tiny. It was nothing.
And he's not called or messaged?
No, he has not called or messaged. So then I was just at 10:30. I messaged him to say, hey, what am I going to be back and stuff? And he was like, oh, in a couple of hours. So okay, whatever. So I've left it for a couple of hours, and then literally at midnight.
And so you go into this house which you've already renting now.
Right. It's like I was renting a room with a couple in a shared flat.
And you go there and you start setting up your stuff.
Yeah, I go there. I'm literally just sitting on the bed. I haven't set anything up.
Are you anxious? Are you worried? What's going on? Is your heart racing?
Yeah, I was just like, all my bags were there. All my stuff is there. And I'm just sitting on this bed in this unknown place. And I'm like...
And you've just left your husband?
Yeah, I've just left my husband. My parents don't know. Nobody knows.
And how much money do you have in the bank?
I don't actually have any money in the bank at that time. I think I was trending in minus. So it's like...
Okay, so let me get this straight. So you are in a new city where you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
You not only do not have money, you are running in the negative. Yeah. You've just left your husband. He doesn't know that you've left him. Your parents don't know you've done this massive runner.
No.
Oh my God, Kusum.
I know. I was like, the only thing I had is a job.
Yes.
That's it. That was the only thing I had. A job and my clothes and my rice
cooker.
cooker.
Many points in your life, your job has saved you. Emotionally, mentally.
My job, has saved me. I
many,
think,
many times.
Many times. Many times.
And it's one of those examples where you think that work is so important. So anyway, coming back to this very exciting point in your life. So at some point, he must have reached home. Yeah. And he's realized you're not there and your stuff is not there. So does he call you or is he...
Yeah, so I texted him actually to say, when you get home, I'm not going to be there. And this was around midnight. And, I've left. And then it was like, is this some kind of joke? And then he got home. Obviously, I wasn't there. And he must have seen all my stuff is not there. So the first thing he did was call my dad.
So before calling you, he called your dad?
Yeah.
Wow. And then that's how your dad found out?
Yeah.
So he was going to say, your daughter left, and your dad's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And I was also trying to time it to make sure it was early morning in Indonesia. Because I didn't want them to get a call at the middle of the night at 3 o'clock. Their door has done a run or something.
That's very considerate of you, Kusum.
So I was like, okay, it's going to be midnight, 12 o'clock. It's going to be 6 a.m. in Indonesia. They would have woken up. And they're going to get a call in the middle of the night saying, hey,
daughter's missing.
Like your daughter's run away or something.
Wow. Okay.
So the timing worked, I guess, for the folks.
So then, did your dad call you?
Yeah. He's like, where the hell are you? Yeah. And I'm like, I've left. But I actually said, I don't think I can tell anyone where I am.
You didn't tell your parents also?
No. I was like...
I am equally amazed and equally horrified by the things that you do.
I just felt like I didn't want I didn't want anyone to feel that my parents were in it with me.
I know.
Okay, I didn't want anyone to ever go to them and say, "Oh, you knew yet that your daughter was going to do
And
this
you
and you
did
didn't
not
tell
want
us."
your father to have to lie.
Yeah, and I didn't want him to ever have to lie, and I didn't want to make it sound like I
You were
feel.
colluding with them. And
I
know.
felt like if I would have told them, they would have.
Stopped you from doing
Yeah,
it.
they would have.
Mm.
They would have. They would have said, "Oh, come home" or something.
And we'll figure something out. And
Yeah.
you would probably stretched it all.
I just wanted to stand on my own 2 feet. I took the decision that I wanted to marry this person. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. Okay. And at that point, I wanted to take a decision that I need to do something for myself. I'm not this kind of person. I'm not this loser person who's going to go home. And there was a lot of social norms, like social issues. Everybody were like, "Oh, what did you do? You allowed your daughter to get married to this guy overseas. We told you it's too far and stuff. And then now she's come back and, she's not happy and whatever." So I don't want anyone to ever point their finger at my dad and say, "Oh, you made a wrong decision."
So even in this, you being protective of your parents and your father especially.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
And then
Did your husband try to get in touch with you?
Yeah,
What is happening now?
He did. He tried to get in touch with me, and I eventually spoke to him, and I said, "Look."
One more thing. So when did you start work after that? The next morning?
Yeah, pretty much. I left on a Friday and I started work on a Monday.
So the new girl in office.
Yeah.
Oh God, Kusum.
I know, right? I mean, I don't even know what the London tube system was like at that point, or how I'm supposed to get to work, or what I'm going to wear.
And Kusum, this is one of the reasons why I do this podcast. Because when you see that girl on the street wearing a coat and carrying a laptop and headed to work, you have no idea what her story is.
Yeah.
She could have just left her husband and is trying to start a life afresh.
Possibly.
Oh my God.
So I then I got to a point where I
Are you feeling full of hope at this point in time, or are you feeling guilty because you left him and chose yourself over him, or are you feeling scared?
there was a lot of fear, like I didn't know how I was gonna make through, my bills, my life, when am I gonna see my parents, how the divorce is gonna work out,
And he could come and find you.
and he could come and find me.
So you were essentially hiding
I was essentially hiding, and
in a city where you know nothing.
in a city where I don't know nothing or
And
no
you have
one.
no money.
I have no money.
I think if you had thought too much, you wouldn't have done it.
No, it was just
It's
like,
just crazy.
I think the job. As soon as I found the job, I got an offer.
You're
Like, it
like,
wasn't like an
that's it.
amazing job, but it was a job.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, whatever. I found this job. I'm gonna take it. And then 6 months later, like when all the paperwork was going through, well, I'll just rewind a little bit. So they tried to get in touch with me, etc. But because I was so ahead of my mind that I wanted to leave, and he received the paperwork from the lawyer pretty much a couple of days later, it got to a point where it was like, okay, she's obviously made up her mind, right? She's obviously decided she wants to leave. She's obviously, sent me this paperwork, and it's like, yeah, I mean, a man's ego also gets hurt, right? I mean, A, you left without saying, and then B, you send me a divorce notice, So, I mean, what else could it be to make it more clear that you're done?
So did you speak to him?
Yeah, we spoke to him, and it was kind of all amicable and all mutually agreed. I said to him in a nice way, "Look, please understand where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to be difficult. I have tried to help you. We have done things together to see how you can get better, but it's not something I can, I can cope with anymore." And then my dad came over after 6 months, and we just, amicably did everything we had to do, and then got the paperwork sorted.
So walking away from a relationship is one thing. Building your life in a new city is completely separate thing. So what happens now when you're in this new city? Talk to me about your job, your work. Is that when you start thinking about a dance class?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's when I started thinking about the dance class. I'm like, okay.
Kusum, do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah, I do actually.
What's your memory of that?
I was pretty half my size. No, I'm joking. I was definitely like 10 kilos lighter. But we're thinking about you. You were like, Oh my God, I'm trying to think.
Do you know what I remember?
You were living in Limehouse.
Yes, I was living in Limehouse, and I'll tell you what. Not kids. Most of the people in the class were girls, and we had very few boys, and they had to find couples.
Oh, right.
Because you're
Yeah.
tall and I'm tiny, you were the man, and
I
I was
was
the
the
girl.
man. I'm always the man in a dance class, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just credit to my
And we
height.
got paired together.
Oh yeah, we got paired together, and then we performed, didn't we?
We performed. So we learned to dance together, where you were the man and I was the woman.
Yeah.
But I had absolutely no idea that you just.
I don't think anyone had any ideas of what I was doing.
So was that an attempt to rebuild your life?
It
Find
was an
friends?
attempt to really build my life. It was an attempt to kind of get through it. You know, it was an attempt to, just make new friends. Do things that you like. Do things for yourself. I think this whole kind of self-love, self-care thing that is trending nowadays. I started it 15 years ago.
You were the pioneer.
I hope so. So yeah, it was a lot bit like, okay, do something for yourself, do the things that you like, do the things that you love.
So you told me this much. So we met and then we became friends over years. And at some point you told me obviously about all of this that had happened. But when I met you for a very long period of time, I had no idea about all that you'd been through. But it just amazes me, Kusum, even now after knowing you so well for so many years.
I'm just always so nervous about how people would perceive it, to be honest,
Can I ask you, coming from that, how have you evolved from that to this, where you are comfortable telling the story?
I just feel that it's what we're trying to say is something positive and it's not something negative.
No.
We're trying to say, like, we make decisions in our lives and we need to be accountable for them and absolutely be proud of the choices that we make. We need to love our parents. We need to be able to make sure that they're never, so heartbroken because of some of the things that we experience. We protect them in a way. And I think I just wanted to get this out there that it's there for people, like sometimes, especially when you're very young and you fall in love, it's sometimes the best time because you're such a different person and you grow together. But also there are a lot of people who fall in love very young and end up in difficult situations. So I think that the message is that if anyone is in a difficult situation, you're not alone, and you're never going to be alone. And life has its way of finding better things.
Kusum, when I look back at my own life and in retrospect, what's going to come, right? And I look at pictures of myself just before some major bad thing has happened. I feel so protective of that version of me because that Ruchita doesn't know what's going to hit her in the next month or 2 months or whatever. When you look at pictures of yourself from that point in time, do you feel protective of that Kusum? What would you want to say to that Kusum who is about to do this?
I think I've constantly been in survivor mode. I've constantly had to protect myself, knowing or unknowingly. I think I've always had to protect people, but somehow I've also had to protect myself. And when I look back at what it was, it was, I mean, the only win, there are a few wins, but the biggest win is, I made a life out of it. I live in the United Kingdom. No one in my family has left home and has lived overseas. They all live there. We have family businesses. It's very comfortable. But to be able to say, like, I wanted to stick to my choice and I wanted to prove to myself that, I'm worthy of something. I think that's what it is, really.
Did this experience leave you with more scars and lessons?
Yes and no. I won't say it's easy. I feel like things come to hit you a little bit later in life. At that point, you don't know what's hit you, really. It's like, okay, I've just literally dealt with this and I've been hit by this. But at that point, you don't really know what's really hit you. You only really know what's hit you when you have to go through it.
Did you ever talk about this with your dad, this whole episode?
As in,
when it's all done and a lot of water is flown under the bridge, where you can both be a little bit more objective about it.
Yeah.
What did he have to say about it?
My parents were very, they were very open. They're very supportive. They never were like, oh, you have to come back home or you have to do this or you don't have to do that. I think the fact that I had left and I had, found a job, they were pretty certain that it was probably, it's something that I can't do, and I've thought about it a lot. Um, I think they never shared really how they felt. I think,
To protect you.
with time, I think, it has come through like, oh my God, like, how did you do that? And how did you manage that? Over the years, we've started to speak about it a lot more. But at that point, I just felt like they would just call to say, hey, how are you doing? But they would not really truly share how they were feeling.
So there's another thing I wanted to ask you. Your story about how you came to London is extraordinary. You started a small job, and today you're at a senior position in a bank in one of the biggest cities in the world. How has your journey been from that small job to being in a position where you've built a life for you that's beautiful?
To be honest, it's been tough. It hasn't been easy. It's taken a lot of focus, a lot of strength, a lot of courage, a lot of mindset, a lot of growth. But I think this is the lesson from everything. It's like, if you have to be, I wanted to be sufficient. I wanted to be self-sufficient. I wanted to be a point where I don't ever have to feel I don't have enough, because I came from a place where I was constantly struggling. I didn't have enough money. Wasn't able to buy what I wanted to buy. I constantly have to think of paying bills. So it just came to a point like, I want to be at a point in my life where I can, really get to a point where I can enjoy it and, be sufficient, not just emotionally, but financially. And it took a lot of grit, took a lot of like courage, but I think I worked really, really hard through my times. I've always been dedicated to work. And hopefully it's now yielded the results.
I think all of this and all these experiences that you've had have actually made you a very protective person as well. So you're very protective of me. I know that. I meet hundreds of people in London.
It's brought a very motherly vibe out,
Of you.
Yeah, it's like I'm constantly looking
Mothering
after
everybody.
people. Yeah, motherly everybody, mothering
Which is
everybody.
interesting, Kusum, because you've not had literally anybody in this entire country to mother you.
No. I've been mothering everyone I meet. And it's a very kind of motherly, mothering vibe or whatever it is.
Because God has put you in situations where you've continuously mothered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
That's been how you've survived.
Yeah. I've had to mother everyone in my life.
You face many challenges in your life, and some of them are absolutely crazy. But there is nothing that has broken you as much as losing your father. And I know there are many people who are watching this, or hopefully who have lost a parent and are dealing with that grief. You lost him about a year ago. How have you dealt with the grief, and what do you have to say about it to anybody watching who might be going through this?
But grief hits you in waves, 1 minute you're okay, 1 minute you're not, and it's almost like grief is love with no place to go.
True.
I'm mothering everybody, but I don't actually have a child. If I had a child on my own, maybe I could channel the grief and say, like, here you go, here's extra love for you today because my dad's not around.
And you know what? The other thing would have happened. You would have seen more of your father in your child, because genetically there would be a link.
100%.
So yes, I can understand
So
that.
I think grief is difficult. It takes time. It never goes away, but you learn to live with it. It's like carrying stones in your pocket, right?
It will always feel heavy.
It's always there
and heavy.
But you get used to the weight. It's like having pebbles or stones or whatever you want to call it in your pocket.
We want stones, not syringes anymore.
So it's like having stones in your pocket and constantly, constantly carrying that weight, but you just get used to it.
And what do you think if your dad could see you now, sitting on this podcast, talking about the lessons you've learned and sharing a story that clearly shows your grit, gumption, spirit? What would he make of it?
Oh my God.
You would tell him, right? Today morning you would have called him and told him you're going on a podcast.
I would have called him, and he would have said, why would you want to put your life on social media? Probably.
And you would say, it's for a friend.
I think you'd be very proud.
He'd be
Oh.
proud of who you are.
I think so. I'd hope so.
You miss him a lot, don't you, Kusum?
Terrible, really. Love it. Maybe, but yeah, I think he'd be very proud. He was very chilled. He was a very chilled guy. He'd always wanted to be happy. So I don't think he'd want any of us or any of his family or anyone he knew to ever be sad.
Can I tell you something that I feel very strongly? When you have a great love in your life, you're very lucky that you have that great love. But it's a double-edged sword. So when that love goes, you feel the pain, but you feel the pain because you knew great love.
Yeah, I guess I was very lucky. Well, I'm very lucky. Yeah, I've had a dad that was super supportive through my journey. Never judged me for anything, never stopped me for anything. Was sending me to another place in this world. Very far away. To a family that he wasn't even that I even
100%
knew of,
yeah,
or
convinced about.
or could 100% say that they'd look after me or something like that. But somehow the courage. He used to always say to me, "You should be brave, not beige." Like the
I
color
love it.
beige. Maybe that just stuck with me.
So Kusum, do you see yourself as a victim here?
No, not at all. I think the reason I decided to come to this podcast and actually to say about my story was this is not about, oh, I'm a victim and, oh, this is what happened to me. I was young and naive, and whatever. No, it's not about that. It's about the fact that the choices that you make, you should be proud of them. You should be accountable for your journey. You should embrace the person that you become. I wouldn't be who I am today if not for the experiences I have had. And I'm very proud of them. I'm very thankful to all the people that I've met in my life. They have helped me shaped and made me a better person in some ways. So, the message is not that, oh, I'm a victim and this happened to me and, I want people to feel sorry. No,
not
I'm
at
not
all.
bringing out any
No.
sympathy card here, but it's more like, it's more to embrace who we are as people and how we can be better in our lives.
Kusum, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And for sharing your story in all its honesty. I know it was deeply emotional for you.
Thank you.
And we've both been in tears during this podcast, which was not our intention.
Hopefully we can edit some of that.
So thank you for sharing your story. I have no doubt that some people watching will be in situations where they need to hear your words. Kusum's story isn't just about heartbreak, betrayal, or struggle. It is more about knowing that even though you love a person, sometimes enough is enough. One of the hardest, bravest thing some of us will ever have to do in our lives is to walk away from people we love, because we know that they do not bring out the best version of ourselves. For anyone watching this, if you feel like you are living in misery or you love someone but you know that they are not good for you, in a lot of cases, I know you are waiting for someone to come and save you. Take a leaf out of Kusum's story and be your own hero. Get a taxi, get out. Like Kusum, save yourself. This was no ordinary story. This is no ordinary life. Thank you for watching. See you next time.